Well, I didn't go great. Boston Celtics losing to the Charlotte Hornets. Big guys didn't shoot so well. Tatum and Brown with the three-point shooting, but they should have attacked more, and I'm going to talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-Team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making the show part of your daily routine. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. This show is free every Monday through Friday. Free show. You get a brand new podcast wherever you get your podcast. Brand new free podcast on YouTube. And you can find the episodes on LockedOnCeltics.com if you ever missed one. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Boston Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, which is available now everywhere books are sold online. It's on my website, johnkaralis.com, for $30 personalized signed copy available there. Boston Celtics losing to the Charlotte Hornets 111-102. This is another, two steps forward, one step back kind of loss. The Celtics did a few things right, did a few things wrong, got some bad luck, and ended up losing this game. They kind of bookended. They won the fourth quarter. They won the first quarter. Well, the fourth quarter was kind of up for debate. They won the fourth quarter by, hitting a couple of shots late. It makes it look like they won the fourth quarter. The big problem was the second and third quarter, where the Celtics turned the ball over a bunch, couldn't hit their threes, and ended up falling behind and never really recovering. The Celtics got 0 for 7 shooting from three from Jason Tatum. They got 2 for 11 shooting from three from Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 19 overall. Just a real crap fest of a game. Now, what did I say yesterday? If you watched yesterday's podcast at all, I said this team, they need to attack. The Charlotte Hornets do not have a center. They have Mason Plumlee, who is just not going to protect the rim. Yes, he's a big guy, and he's not going to just be a complete walkover, but generally speaking, you can attack him. You can get where you need to go, and you can get what you're looking to get against the Charlotte Hornets. They are the most, they give up the most assists in the league, and 27 assists for the Celtics in this one, but they could have had more. This could have been like a 35 assist game very, very easily. Celtics 14 of 46 overall from three, about 30%. Celtics 25 of 44 from two. What was that? 57%? I forget the number. I figured it out, and then I put that note away. It's a lot. And 50 points from two, right? It's 25 of 44. I can do that math. 25 times 2 is 50. 40 of those points came in the paint. So the Celtics attacked some. I was on the Zone with Rich Kimball that I do every Tuesday in Bangor, Maine. And I said, if the Celtics get 50 points in the paint, they can win this game. They're going to win this game. They have 40 points in the paint. If they had gotten 10 more points in the paint, take a few of those misses, maybe 1 or 2 of these made threes, turn them into points in the paint, 10 points in the paint. The Celtics, by virtue of not only attacking, potentially getting foul calls, potentially getting deeper into the penalty in the fourth quarter, they could have turned this game around. 50 points in the paint, I think, would have won this game. Celtics just stopped attacking, stopped doing the right thing. I write a preview every day for Boston Sports Journal. And at the end, I put three things to watch for. And I put the first 2 things, protecting the ball and attacking the basket. The Celtics didn't attack enough for my liking, and they didn't protect the ball. 14 turnovers, not a massive number. 14 is, you want to keep it lower than that, but 14 isn't a number where you say this should be what kills the Celtics. But 20 points off of those turnovers, live ball turnovers. The Celtics when they're at their worst, they turn the ball over and they let the number 1 transition team in the league get out there and run. Celtics, here's the biggest problem that everybody has. This is a note that's going across Twitter, across everything. Celtics down 88-84 with about 8.5 minutes to go. Romeo Langford draws a foul. He hits one of two free throws. So it's a 4-point game, and the Celtics are now the Hornets now are at four team fouls. When you get to the fifth, you're in the penalty. So essentially, the Charlotte Hornets were in the penalty because the next foul would mean free throws for the Celtics. 8:40 to go. That was a huge development. Here you are now. You're coming back, right? You've played like crap for a bunch of the game. You're shooting like crap. And what's one of the things you hear all the time when you see a team shooting terribly, when you see a person shooting terribly, you say, man, if you can only get to the line, you can see a couple fall, then maybe this will turn around. And Jason Tatum got to the line 3 times. It was 2 of 3. The Celtics, with 8:40 to go and one more foul to get into the penalty, did not draw another foul in the final 8:40 of the game. They drew 4 in the first, 3:20? 4 fouls in the first 3:20. Ime Udoka says, we knew we were in the bonus and talked about attacking and getting to the basket a little more. I think we drove it in and got a little sloppy, some turnovers in transition, playing in a crowd. We didn't take advantage of that fourth quarter being in that early, obviously. The Celtics cut a lead down to 4. You have most of the fourth quarter to go. I'm talking on press row to people about how this game is going, and I'm thinking, look, they haven't played well, and they still have a chance. They could have easily put a little run together there and won this game. And the story in this game should have been Celtics shoot poorly, but figure out another win. And it would have actually been kind of in the vein of the recent games. You say, hey, look, still not playing well, but figuring it out. Celtics didn't figure it out in this game. That to me is just disappointing. It's just disappointing is all. Like, when you have 2 things staring you in the face. You have the Charlotte interior defense, which is terrible. And you have the penalty with nearly 9 minutes to go in the game. Almost 9 full minutes, 8.5 minutes of penalty time, where every foul, every reach in, every bump, everything is 2 free throws. To not attack when you know that those 2 things are the case, when you know you can get to the rim, to not attack. And I'm not saying everything has to be at the rim. Every shot from then on has to be a layup, because of course they're going to collapse and you drive and kick. But there's not only no drive and attack, there's no drive, kick, secondary attack for this team. That this is the way they're going to win. You attack, and as Ime said after the game, recognize that they're going to collapse on you. One of the lessons he's really trying to impart on these guys is it's not about you personally. It's about the team. And I really do think that a lot of these guys, they do say outwardly, yes, of course it's about the team, but they also think on a personal level, not selfishly, but it is some ego in there that, well, I am thinking about the team, and the best thing for the team is for me to score. But attack, drive, kick, this is the thing that drives me crazy. There are 4, 5, 6, 7 steps in a possession that you could look at and kind of map out. And there are arguments, and I'll get into this a little bit in the second segment. In fact, you know what? I'm going to save this for the second segment right now. I'm going to take a break right now, and I'll continue this argument about what's a good shot, a good 3-pointer, and driving and attacking, because this is driving me crazy. And I had an argument on Twitter. It's my second argument on Twitter about this. I go on and on and on, but I've got to say my piece, and I'm going to do it right now. First, we got to talk to you about BetOnline, which is wishing you a happy betting new year. As we continue, NFL playoffs are coming up. We're in the second half of the NBA season, and BetOnline is the number one spot for all your sports wagering action this year. Go to the new updated website, mobile website, desktop website, doesn't matter. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. You're going to get a 50% welcome bonus at BetOnline. So no matter what you want to bet, whatever sports, football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, run it all down. Your favorite Vegas casino games are there too. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available this year. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. I'm always very appreciative of that. Make your second listen every day. Locked On Now, which is a great recap podcast of the night in the NBA. You get both sides from each game, and this way you get the perspective. So when Locked On Hornets has their own perspective of how this game went, check out Locked On Now. You're going to get a very good kind of mix of both sides. Check out Locked On Hornets too. Want to hear what they have to say about the game. It's always good to get the other side's perspective. So check it out wherever podcasts exist. And Locked On Now is on the Locked On NBA YouTube page. So I started talking about this in the last segment. I didn't want to limit myself. And here's where I am when it comes to the attacking, right? And driving and the mentality of these guys. In that Ime talks about afterwards, I feel like I have to remind these guys that when you drive, there is help coming. And it's not just about this. It's about drawing the help and kicking out. I had this discussion today during the game, after the game, with Ryan Bernardoni, who, if you follow him on Twitter, is at Danger Cart, who I respect greatly. I mean, I think he's one of the smartest people who is not actually in the Celtics media, especially, but he is a very, very smart person, and especially when it comes to the salary cap and stuff like that. He's a very sharp guy, and I like the way he thinks. But we have this disagreement, and we've had this disagreement twice. And it's a simple disagreement on what shot's good and what's next. So when I watch, and I picked out a Jason Tatum shot with 17 seconds on the shot clock. He got the ball. He shot it. It was an open shot. No doubt. It was an open shot. He had a couple of options. He had Jaylen Brown in the corner. He certainly could have faked and tried to drive. They had Al Horford in the dunker spot underneath. Who knows how the rotations would have gone, but you can really see like a bunch of permutations. And one of the arguments, and I don't want to mess it up, but one of the arguments is there's, it's an open three-point shot for your best player. And theoretically, I mean, he's not shooting well now, but a really good three-point shooter. If he was shooting his normal shot, that shot would have, probably would have gone in. No one would have really thought twice about it. I probably would have sat there and be like, didn't like that shot, but he's Jason Tatum. The shot went in. Kind of would have blown it off a little bit. That's 100% true. I still wouldn't have thought that it's my favorite shot in the world, but sometimes great players take shots when they are not your favorite shot in the world. And you say, all right. But when they miss, you say, it becomes a little bit more scrutiny, especially when the style of play that the coach is trying to preach doesn't fit with that shot. And it's not just that shot. The Celtics love taking these shots with 17, 18, 19 seconds on the shot clock when there are driving opportunities and driving kicks. And now I am of the same school of thought as Brad Stevens, as Ime Udoka, as watching those 2014 Spurs and going, oh, yes, please. Are we ever going to get this again? Because there's a beauty to that. And the Warriors do this a bunch, but the Warriors are so kind of, obviously you got Steph, right? And you got Draymond, who's, a genius in a lot of ways. And now you've got Clay, and they've had Clay. And so it's obviously to an extreme, but when you have the ability with that much time on the clock, and especially in these situations, this is a very key element to my argument here with these Celtics and what they should be doing. When there's time on the clock, 17 seconds on the clock, and in certain situations, sometimes an open shot with 17 seconds on the clock, that's fine. I'm not saying every shot with 17 on the clock is bad, right? Sometimes you just get wide open ones. You're never going to get a better shot than that. But my contention in this particular instance, and in a lot of instances, is the Celtics could have gotten a better shot. That wasn't the best shot that was available. It was a good shot, and maybe you could pull up some statistical thing that tells me, well, the percentage of this shot going in is probably, whatever, theoretically, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I'm not anti-analytics. Analytics have a huge role in sports and in basketball that tell us a lot of things that the eye test lie to us about. But I also believe that there's art to the game of basketball. There is an art to it that has to be considered. That you're trying to manipulate, trying to pull things out of the offense when we're talking about moving the ball. So get the ball in this situation could have done a couple of different things. If you drive and kick and say, in this situation, the drive and the kick has Jaylen Brown in the corner. That is either an open three. Okay. You want corner threes, or it is a second attack. And we don't talk about it a whole lot, but the second attack is probably more important than the first one, because paint touch, kick it out, attack that closeout, get into the paint. What happens to the first guy? What happens to Jason Tatum? He rotates out. That next kick is back out to Jason Tatum, who then can attack again and score, or drive again, take another dribble, attack that closeout and dump it off. The defense is spinning around. Or maybe it's an even more wide open 3-pointer where you're now in the corner rather than above the break. And you've rotated to a place where the defense is going blah, 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 and you catch and shoot and score. But it goes beyond that even. And this is hard to get into on Twitter, but it goes beyond that, because what else are you accomplishing here by doing that? You're making the Hornets work on defense. You're making them scramble, go left and right and up and down and this and that. And maybe they argue a little bit with each other. Maybe their focus goes away. And I've said this on the podcast before. Maybe their focus goes away from how comfortable they are, how comfortable Terry Rozier was the whole game, and especially down the stretch, shooting and drilling contested shots and sticking his tongue out at the Celtics bench. Like, you take that level of comfort away by making him work on defense. It's all connected. It's all like a nervous system. It's not just one thing that this shot is just a good shot. There's a million things connected to this. By making them work on defense, by attacking and kicking and the secondary attack, you're making Rozier and Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball and Mason Plumlee. You're making all these guys work. And they're getting tired and they get discouraged when you get a layup, maybe even a foul call. And now they're pissed off and the coach is on their ass. And now you got to come down, and maybe that level of distraction is just enough to make them make a mistake. You never know where in that final mix, that fourth quarter, that leads to a turnover or a pass that's just a tick behind somebody, that instead of being in the shooting pocket where it's a nice, easy shot, it is a little bit behind and it's a contested shot that misses, or it's a block shot. And it's hard for me to say that this is all exactly what's going to happen, but these are all very likely potential outcomes. This is the art of basketball. That just settling for that first good shot might seem like, well, statistically, yes, that shot has this % chance of going in. Okay, fine. But also in this particular situation, when the Celtics are trying to come back, especially fold in, the Celtics aren't shooting well from three. Fold in that they are shorthanded. Fold in that there are guys with foul trouble. All of that stuff means you just keep pushing and make them make mistakes. Give yourself these opportunities. By sitting there and sitting back and saying, hey, man, that's a good shot. One pass, that's a good shot. All right, fine. It is a good shot. I'm not saying it's not a good shot. I'm saying there's better shots out there. By just saying that, then you miss. And then what happens when you miss those shots? Which you've been doing. You add to your frustration. Right? Jason Tatum misses again. Then, shoulders slump. Got to get back. Screw up when you get back. Other guys, you shoot that shot with 17 seconds on the clock. You got another guy. You got Jaylen Brown. I didn't ask. I don't know what's going through his head, and he wouldn't tell me. But what's going through Jaylen Brown's head in that moment? Like, hey, give me the ball. I was wide open. What's going through? I forget who else was on the floor there. What's going through Al Horford's head? Standing underneath the basket when you're down by single digits, and you say, "Oh, come on, man, just drive. You had me underneath. It was I was there for a dunk." And theoretically, maybe somebody could have come by and stolen that ball. Also possible. But all of these permutations of things that can happen are things that you want to try to explore for. Because, and my final point here is this. That shot that Jason Tatum got, if you run that play 10 times and you pass up that first shot, I'm sure that there's a significant number of times that if you run that through some sort of simulation somehow, that shot comes back and Tatum can get some version of that shot in some level of the final 17 seconds of that play. Because that shot, and maybe it's not exactly for Tatum, maybe it's for Grant Williams, maybe it's for Jaylen Brown, but somebody who you trust to take that shot can take some version of that shot. And does it take away from Tatum's shot there? Maybe. But then Tatum gets another shot down the road when it's Jaylen's turn to drive and do all of this stuff. This is all super important stuff for the Celtics. They have to get into these habits of attack first. I keep repeating myself day to day on this podcast, but attack first. The three-pointers flow off of that attack. Then you can catch and shoot. It's harder to do. It's hard work to do it as a player, but it pays off so much in the long run in so many different ways. Going to come back. I'll talk about some other individual performances when I return here on the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. As always, I do thank you very much for that. Make a Locked On Bets your second listen. Good podcast there if you're looking to lay out some money on BetOnline. Your boy Q, Lee Sterling, they've got you covered and give you some good advice. Maybe you can win a couple extra bucks with their advice. Check it out, Locked On Bets, wherever you get your podcasts. So I just want to make sure I am clear after that whole second segment rant that that's not a call out of Ryan or anything like that. I said at the beginning, I'll say it again now. I have as much respect for Ryan as I do for anybody out there covering the Celtics. And he doesn't even cover the Celtics really anymore necessarily, but he does do some podcasting with Brian Robb on the Winning Plays podcast, which I listen to. Those guys do a great job. Whenever he's on, I always make sure to listen to him. He's very, very smart. He's at Danger Cart on Twitter. This is a simple difference of opinion, and maybe some point we can get together and talk about stuff like that. But that's all it is. Much love to Ryan. All right. Some individual stuff here from, we have to make sure that I didn't even mention, no Robert Williams, still out with, personal reasons, the birth of his son. Shout out to Hendricks. Celtics have made it clear that however much time Rob needs to be home with his son is how much time he's going to get, which I wholeheartedly agree with. This is the birth of a son. As much as this was in particular a game that the Celtics, if they just had Robert Williams, I think this would have been a dunk fest. Like he would have been, 10 of 12 from the field. It would have been a wild night for Robert Williams, but hey, birth of a son is a birth of a son. You only get one shot at that. So that's good for him. And so no Marcus Smart he cleared health and safety protocols but was out due to return to competition reconditioning, trying to get himself back into playing shape. So he wasn't there. That hurt. Jason Tatum, Grant Williams, foul trouble. That hurt. Early foul trouble. So that hurt. So what do we get? That got us a lot of Ennis freedom in this game. And I will say, I understand. Like Ime said, here's the quote. He said that, oh no, I don't have the quote. Sorry, I don't have the quote. But he did say, like, acknowledge that, we have to kind of piece together some lineups here, and we had to play Ennis when they were small. To which I question, did you really have to play Ennis when they were small? Why not go Tatum at the 5 and go super, super small yourself? And you might say, well, that puts a lot of pressure on Tatum defensively, but you're playing him a ton of minutes as it is. So why not play him just a couple minutes less and give Romeo Langford some time? Romeo played pretty decently. I'm still okay with Jason. Like, you want to post up if they put Plumlee in, you want to post him up, by all means. I'm all for baiting the other team into changing their style, because I can tell you what that would have meant. It would have meant less Terry Rozier, who killed the Celtics, 10 of 18 shooting, 6 of 11 from 3, 28 points. It would have meant less LaMelo Ball, who hit 3 of 6 from 3. It would have meant less up and down if they wanted to dump the ball in against Jason Tatum and say, hey, let's try to wear this guy down or whatever. Like, Tatum's a strong guy. He can handle that. I mean, it's not like, Plumlee is prime wilt or anything out there. So I just disagree with the level of how many minutes Ennis got out there. Al Horford had a decent game. I thought he was pretty good. I think he's the only guy I can sit there and say, like, he was kind of pretty good throughout. Everyone else had issues. Tatum didn't shoot well. Grant Williams hit 2 of 5 from 3. That's great. That's 40%, but he had foul trouble. Have you noticed Grant's gotten a lot more yappy with the refs this year? Like, I think he's feeling himself a little this year, and he is very, very engaged in conversation with the officials. Jaylen Brown, 21 points, 9 of 20 shooting. Okay, so he hits one more that's shooting 50%, but 2 of 11 from 3. It's another guy that, would like to see him attack more. 6 assists, though. The Celtics did rack up the assists. Like I said, 27 assists on 39 baskets. It looks good, man. It looks good. But the Celtics, after the game, I kind of compared it to the Homer Simpson buying the cursed Krusty the Clown in one of the Simpsons Halloween episodes. The possessed Krusty doll that starts killing everybody. And he goes in to buy it, and it's like, the doll is cursed. Ooh, that's bad. But it comes with a free Frogurt. Oh, that's good. Like, that's what the Celtics kind of had in this game. They had the thing that, they had 27 assists on, 39 baskets. That's good. But, Tatum and Brown combined to shoot 2 of 18 from 3. Oh, that's bad. Celtics got the game down to 4, despite everything. Oh, that's good. But they gave up 11 offensive rebounds, leading to 18 second chance points. Oh, that's bad. Like, that's the Celtics. Like, this whole game for these guys was, if a couple of things go a different way, right? Like, if a couple of shots fall, then we're probably perceiving this overall game a little differently. And there's these understandable things like, of course, Robert Williams should be home with his newborn son. Okay, Marcus Smart is coming back from COVID, global pandemic. That's a weird anomaly that you have to deal with, and foul trouble happens. And if it was the Milwaukee Bucks that had Giannis and Chris Middleton getting into foul trouble, or whoever else, then we would have said, okay, yeah, let's it happens and you move on. Like tough hit to have those guys, shoot poorly and get into foul trouble. I get it. Saps away your energy. But I still feel like some of these guys, they just play a little bit better, a little differently. And then, of course, there's Dennis Schroeder, who continues to have the box score looks great. 24 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 3 turnovers. Okay, everybody has a few turnovers. But he's a minus 14 and makes a bunch of defensive mistakes. He really is the anti-Smart. Like, he is the exact opposite of Marcus Smart. Smart is a tremendous defensive player that is, he's okay. He's okay offensively, and I'm not going to go through all of that stuff. Schroeder is like this really good offensive player, not as good at offense as Marcus Smart is at defense. But then defensively, it's like I watch him, I'm like, he's driving me crazy. So we have this opposite impact. But Al is the only guy I look at and I say, okay, he had a good game. I see Dennis, even though he shot really, really well, I think shots fell for him. And I don't think that he played particularly any better than anybody else. Just shots fell for him. So another disappointing loss, man. Another tough one where the Celtics had this opportunity to gain in the standings, but they didn't. And so now they're still in that 9th spot. They're still at 500. It's just who they are. They're a 500 team, and they still have room here. They still have space to move, but the Cavaliers lost, and that would have been, you could have gained on the Cavaliers, could have gained on the Charlotte Hornets. You could have been 24 and 22. That would put you above Washington in the 8th seed. That would have put you 3 games out of 6, with 3 games coming up that are very, very winnable. But it's always something with these guys. It's always something. All right, tomorrow I will be back. I will have Keith Smith on the show. Great time to have Keith on because more trade deadline stuff, and we'll get deeper into some of the impacts of the Wancho trade, because now we're hearing about another trade exception and stuff like that was created, and money that went out and all of that stuff. So that'll be tomorrow's show. So Keith and I will have a good conversation heading you into the weekend, and we can discuss all that stuff. And so stick around, because there's a lot of trade talk coming up tomorrow. If you're not subscribed, if you're new and you want to subscribe, go ahead, wherever you get your podcast, however you're listening to it now. Watch the show on YouTube. Would love to have you join the show on YouTube. We're continuing to get closer. I think we're getting close to 3,600 subscriptions now. So just crossed 3,500, getting to 36. Steady march. So I really do appreciate that. And that means plenty of you are sharing the podcast. So please continue to do that. Tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network.